what's the right way to kind of think about the capabilities required? You just go out and hire 9 of the smartest data scientists and have a solution in 1 month, or how do you assemble the right capabilities to take these projects on effectively?
Yeah, so another a great question, how so capabilities and the team. So when you consider recent studies, they suggest that the failure rate of data analytics projects, meeting their desired objectives, like I said a little earlier, they're pretty high. They could be anywhere. Studies suggest 30 to 50%. So you really do have to do everything in your power to minimize that risk. So when it comes to data analytics projects, there are a couple of common challenges slash risks that organizations are usually faced with. One is talent gap, as there's often a high demand for skilled data professionals, like you mentioned, data scientists or analysts or BI analysts. It goes on, right? But there's not currently, there's not enough qualified candidates to fill those roles. So the talent is one challenge, and I'll ultimately answer your question. The second challenge is choosing the right tools for a project. Again, Mike L mentioned earlier, technology, or at least there was a reference in his slide that technology does matter. And there are tons of tools and technologies to choose from, which can be tricky to say the least. So especially if they're overly complex, or they just don't fit the project's needs. So the answer is, and something that I've always, smart way to address both of these challenges, an approach that I depend on, are strategic alliances. And that's alliances with the right technology partners, people that do this for a living. These partners can provide the much needed expertise as well as bench strength, when the demand exceeds your capacity to bridge the skills gap and, guide your internal team on best practices and methodologies. But they are also instrumental in selecting the right architecture and tools, making sure that those tools match the program's goals and the team's expertise. Yeah, we could figure that out on our own internally, but you're often dealing with time. Time is money, so speed to market, it's key. So but by collaborating with experienced technology partners, organizations can effectively address the challenge of both technology selection and talent gaps. And this approach will reduce the risk of failure and ultimately increase the likelihood of success for your data analytics programs.
Thanks, Scott.
Mike Crawford, just quick, just a question on Q&A, and just a reminder to everyone out there listening, please go ahead and ask your questions out on Q&A. We'd love to have some live questions for the audience. Scott, this is kind of a carryover from what you were just saying, but data management projects succeed, they fail. I guess, when do they typically fail? I mean, you were just talking about getting the right talent. I think you were just talking about choosing the right tools. Like, what else can you tell the audience?
There are a number of, right? So, I think those two that I just mentioned, they're more programmatic level, right? The talent and the tools and technology. They often, if they're misaligned, will net out. And let me just say, failure means a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that the technology fell, but expectations. You didn't have the right goals and objectives up front, so you didn't meet the objectives of the stakeholder. Not having a stakeholder that is intimately involved in this process. We use the term two in the box. That means you need a stakeholder from the business to be a key part of the team, because that's where problems happen. If they're not, and they're just on the peripheral, it's easy to miss. Expectations are not correct. And then another one, we could go on. We could probably talk just about this for an hour. But I'd say the other big one is data quality. And that is, again, something that Mike mentioned, and you need to be able to address that at the programmatic level, that you have the right sources, that the quality of the data is good, because if the quality isn't, or you don't have enough sources, the insight is going to be suboptimal and could be considered then a failure.
Thanks, Scott.